Good morning, Doc with Dr. Patrick Live. And this morning we're going to talk about neuroplasticity, because think about it. It used to be that everybody thought that a person was born, they had a certain amount of neurons and synapses in their brains, and as you kind of burned them up, that was it, you were done. So you would be born with like 86 billion neurons, and there were like 15,000 synapses by age 3 attached to each neuron, and then by the time you became an adult, you had burned up about half of them. So then you were kind of moving forward. The synaptic receptors, right, that you weren't using, this process called synaptic pruning would come in, and it would take care of them, right? It would start snipping those little pieces that you weren't using. So the question became, if you've done damage to your brain, can it heal? If you've been battling addiction, can it heal? If you've been battling anything, had traumatic brain injury, can it heal? If you had trauma, can it heal? That's the question. Can your brain heal? Stay tuned. The brain, right, can be damaged. We can do many things that will mess up our brain, and some of the things that we do that mess up our brain, right, we get stuck, we have accidents, we have head trauma, we will use drugs or alcohol to excess and then change the neural pathways, and now we're in trouble. And there's a whole host of things that can damage our brains. The question we have is, can we start to regenerate? Is there a way that the brain can start to produce and heal itself? So the research says that addiction basically is a disease, but not the way that we normally look at disease. Really, it's a reorientation in the brain that creates new neural pathways. So when those new neural pathways are created, the way our brain is supposed to function normally stops, and now it becomes abnormal. And because of that abnormality, the brain remaps itself, and now we struggle. Because from that point on, the brain really is going to want dopamine. And so it's going to take every kind of shortcut it can get to get that dopamine release in the nucleus accumbens. So if you want to have a healthy brain, right, and you've been battling addiction, you have to reorient it, right? You have to sort of remap it. It's almost like you have to think of this was the pathway in the beginning, and then addiction came in, and so the pathway jumped and took a shortcut, and now recovery is about not going back to the old pathway, not using the new addiction pathway, but it's like building a pathway in between, a pathway of recovery. So your brain has to remap itself so that you can overcome and resist all those temptations and the triggers and the chemicals that your brain's going to produce to try to get you to reactivate that addictive part of your brain. So, what are some things that you can do? Well, there's been all kinds of research about how you can heal different parts of your brain. And so here's just a list. The first one is intermittent fasting. And that's where you fast on a schedule. That intermittent fasting kind of increases synaptic adaptation, right? And allows your brain to kind of recover. So that's one. Traveling. Because as your brain is taking in new information, new sights, and processing it, right, your brain is exercising itself. And when it exercises itself, it keeps it healthy. Using mnemonic devices, right, trying to get your memory working more. So memorizing stuff helps your brain regenerate. Learning a musical instrument. Matter of fact, this is one of the most important things. Music can really help your brain heal. Listening to music is good, but learning to play an instrument is even better. That's one of the most powerful things you can do. Non-dominant hand exercises, right? So you're used to using whatever your dominant hand is. So if you start to use your non-dominant hand, your brain has to work harder to get used to that. So thus it's exercising your brain. Reading fiction or even nonfiction, just reading where your mind can go and imagine. Right? It gets your brain working. That helps keep your brain sharp. Expanding your vocabulary. Like you should get a new word every week and try to memorize it and try to figure out, what does it mean? How do I do it? Right? So memorize a new word every week. Create artwork. Artwork expands the brain and allows the brain to process. Dancing. Believe it or not, there's all kinds of research that says dancing reduces the risk of Alzheimer's and it increases neural connectivity in your brain. So dance, right? You can do a little dancing. Sleeping, right? Your brain heals while you sleep. A lot of people don't sleep well, right? And so they don't give their brain the chance to recover. So remember, you can start to do things to exercise your brain. Think of your brain as a muscle. So if your brain was a bicep and you said, okay, I want to strengthen my bicep, what would you do? Well, you would get some curls and you would exercise, but if you neglected it, it would go into decay, right? And pretty soon you'd get all flabby, you wouldn't have any muscle whatsoever. Your brain is that way. You have to exercise your brain every single day. If you can learn to exercise your brain doing the things that we talked about, right? It keeps it vibrant, it keeps it working, and it will build new neural pathways. The brain has such a powerful plasticity built into it. We used to think, right, that it couldn't grow, but now we know it can. And so every day we need to reconfigure, re-strengthen, do something different, help your brain adjust and learn something today. Don't settle. That's one of the dangers of just sitting there and watching TV for long periods of time. Nothing wrong with TV or nothing wrong with playing video games, right? But if you do it too long, your brain isn't going to be exercising, right? And it's going to make things worse. So exercise every aspect of your brain. It will lift us up. It will heal, the brain will rewire itself, it'll remap, and man, the amazing things that will happen, right, are out of this world. So hey, if you know somebody who's struggling, why don't you share this video with them, right? Especially if they're trying to regenerate or get their brain working together better for the future. Share this video. If you like it, share it, subscribe, do what you need to do, and remember, more than anything, together, right, we can change the world. Doc out.